Hello, and thank you for joining me tonight. This is the video to pertain to Chapter 4 in Dynamic Thought if you're going along with the series. You can check the video bio for links to the first, 1, 2, 3 chapters in case you're just stumbling across this video. This chapter puts a big significance on, or draws our attention to, rather, the power of our subconscious mind. In this chapter, the author goes into classify the subconscious into two groups. So he calls one the subliminal. The subliminal is where inspiring thoughts can come from, creative thoughts, intuitive thinking. And the subconscious is the workhorse, or I think he calls it like a sleeping volcano, or just a volcano waiting to be activated. Basically a source of power that doesn't think. It doesn't have reasoning. There's no reasoning in our subconscious mind. It's a blind intelligence where all of our knowledge is stored. And I'm not talking about just the knowledge that we're aware of. Everything is stored. I know that I'm sure you've seen some of the movies that have come out more recently about like I can't remember the names of them, but basically about like tapping into the power of like the full potential of your mind. Imagine that as the subconscious. The thing about the subconscious, however, is that we can't totally understand how powerful it is. Like, we're not entirely aware of its power. You and I now might be aware of the fact that it exists, the fact that it exists, the fact that it is so powerful. However, for most of us, and going through the rest of our lives leading up to the, awakening or understanding that, like, hey, there's this, huge source of power that we have that doesn't reason, that you just tell it what to do and that's what it does. We're left to guide that with our conscious mind. And if you're not aware of that, like, imagine the danger, imagine that's how all of our lives end up being so, not all of us, obviously, but that's how lives end up being so chaotic, so negative, so constantly negative, so much bad things happen to us constantly, because we are creating this. We're guiding this subconscious force, this like unbelievable force, the one we can't even understand. We're guiding it with our negative thinking habits and patterns, and also with what is in our environment, what we're sending in, what messages it's picking up. No matter what message it gets, it's going to act on it. You could use the example, I think is in the book, where you have like a well-intending person or friend who, I'm thinking my coworker situation because I feel like this happened to me a bunch. Oh, you look tired. Are you sick? Like one of those kind of things. Or just someone says something to you and you're like, no, I feel okay. But like that thing sinks in, and like you are tired then, or you do feel sick, or, maybe I am coming down with something. And it just kind of happens from there. Obviously, we don't feel that way every single time someone says something like that to us, but it's an example of how something can get trickled in. Another great example is advertisements. Are you thin enough? Are you fit enough? Are you healthy enough? Are you happy enough? You're not happy enough. Oh, we're all so gloomy. Here, take this pill. Like obviously they're like trying to sell you on something. But those images, those reminders of like this gloominess and this negative. And in the book, I'm going to go into this a little further again, but in the book he calls it good and evil. Like, so let's just think of it that way. Let's kind of like open up to the idea that it's good and evil. Like, I'm not really a fan of those words, but I do understand there's significance here, so let's just kind of go with it, So all these evil things that are thrown at us constantly, and not only by, what we read, your Facebook feed, you're gonna see like all this like horrible negative stuff. And now I'm not talking about the horrible things that are going on in the world. This chapter, or rather this book, is not about changing the world from an action kind of point of view. This is all about our inner work. So just keep that in mind. Don't think about it as like, me saying that there's nothing wrong in the world. Like, there's nothing wrong, like, of course there's stuff going on. Of course people need help. Like, I don't mean it that way. This brings me to the fact that the news only reports negativity. You don't see any good news ever, am I right? Like hardly ever. So that puts a very twisted spin, or it's not a clear representation of life, like there is good in the world. There is good. Like there's a lot of really horrible things that are going on, but there's a lot of good too, and that's not reported on. So you have this contrast, this lopsided view of like, oh, everything is negative, there's only bad out there, like nothing is good. And even if that's not what you're consciously thinking, that's what your subliminal mind is picking up on. It's picking up on negativity constantly. Our subconscious mind never even sleeps. It's when we're sleeping, it's not resting. It's rebuilding our bodies, clearing our cells, doing all those things that we don't ever think to do. We're not conscious. Like we don't say, oh, you know what, it's time for my skin to shed that dead layer and reform. We don't do that consciously. That's all done through our subconscious mind. So you can consider the fact that not only has everything you've ever experienced been impressioned and stored within your subconscious, but it's also responsible for keeping your heart beating, keeping your hair growing, like you don't think to blink, your subconscious does that. Breathing, you're not consciously like, oh, I better take a breath now, like that's all done through your subconscious as well. So just like putting your body together when you're born, when you're, the magic is happening between your parents, and something happens where two things line up, and from there, that's your subconscious. It's like a higher intelligence putting the pieces together. Like how crazy is that? So since the news and social media in general, is so inundated with all this negativity, constantly reporting on what's negative, one of the challenges in this chapter that you're being asked to complete for the better of yourself, for the better of like your inner peace and your ability to become the better you, which then in case make the world a better place, is to focus on the good. So what I do is I hide all nasty things and people on my Facebook. I'm not really active on like my personal Facebook, so it's not really a problem there. I'll just like throw out a bunch of likes on like my friends' kids' pictures, and then like I won't look at it for like a really long time. So Instagram is a perfect example. Instagram is images, it's super bite-sized, you could say. So like getting rid of like negative feed or like people on your feed, like don't follow them. Like if they're just like complaining and being negative and constantly saying how like everyone is stupid, and like those people, like we all know those people, we're all on social media, like from like I don't know how young people are nowadays on social media, like 10, 8, I don't know, to like grandmas being on Facebook. So we all know someone who's just like the negative person on Facebook. Focus on the good. Clean those out. Like don't click on them. Hide those people. Don't follow those people. Fill your social media with really positive things that you want to see. Like basically all I follow on Instagram is like crystal shops, vegan stuff, just because I like looking at like vegan food. Like I'm vegan at the moment, but I'm not trying to push the vegan thing. That's what I like looking at. Or healthy food rather. Yoga people, like yoga, like awesome people that are just like, I'm amazed by how they do things. Some like inspiring things, some people who I just find inspiring to me, whether they're a small shop or a giant shop, some independently owned things, whatever you're interested in, just fill it with things that you want to see that are good and positive things and healthy for your subconscious, and they're going to lead you on a better path. Basically, you want to avoid anything that tells you that the world is not a lovely, wonderful place full of happiness and beauty. Like beauty and happiness are abundant in this world. It's just that we're kind of being led to believe that it isn't, The author kind of goes in to say how everything that's real is mind. Now, of course, I'm not talking about brain. I'm talking about the mind, the consciousness, sub and regular consciousness, sub and non-sub. consciousness, even the world, like everything that we can deem as real is only real like from a philosophical point of view because of what the mind interprets. It's like really cool if you think about it that way. I think it's really cool. It's kind of out there and interesting. So again, we're going to get back into how do we block this out? How do we get this evil out? How do we not think it? How do we not absorb it? How do we not experience it? Controlling your thoughts is super hard, but that's easier for us to understand, like, okay, well, I'm in control of my thoughts. That's true, But when it comes to our environment, the world that we live in, it's a lot harder for us to deny the fact that there's evil in the world. However, denials are the what's going to get us through this. It's telling it's not denying it to your conscious mind. It's denying it to your subconscious mind. It's building a healthier inner workings to bring you to the successful life that you want, to the happy life that you want, to the healthy life, like whatever you're working towards in this whole experience. It's about getting there. It's not about denying the fact that they exist entirely. That's not logical, So, for example, this is a good example in the book. And I totally resonate with something like this because I feel like this is stuff that I used to get to me back, like a few, years ago. Let's say you encounter an angry or violent person, whether, I'm in Staten Island and we have really crazy drivers, so I always use the thing about driving. But whether, you're driving and someone's just crazy and negative and awful, or, I'm in New York City a lot, I'm in Manhattan a lot, you see a lot of there's nasty people there, there's wonderful people there, I'm not saying that, but let's just say you encounter someone who's angry and violent and just awful in that moment. You need to, or what the author is saying for us to do is step up to that mental plane that we've been working on. So when you're there, you deny those actions. And if you don't, if let's say you're not really doing something like that, the whole thing here is that you're going to be more susceptible to becoming angry, to becoming more nasty. It's a domino effect if it's not taken care of. You have to be the one to stop it, or we have to be the ones that stop it. I'm sure you've dealt with that, right? Someone's just rude. They don't even have to be rude and nasty to you. You just witness it and you pick up on it. And even though you're ooh, that person, oh, that was a bad moment, and you carry on, you harbor it and you sympathize with them in some way, and that causes your vibration to be more susceptible to anger or violence or negativity or evil or whatever. So the point of making these denials, again, is to prevent that from getting into your subconscious. You're disconnecting from it right away. You step up into this mental space that we're working in, and there is no anger, there is only compassion, and really get there, and then be gone with it, and it's done, so that's the point of these denials. Now, they are a bit out there if you're not, I'm not trying to convince you because that's not my style, but at the same time, I hope that I'm convincing you enough to be open to the idea that this is a powerful action that you can take, even though it's very slight, or it might not seem like much. It is very powerful, and I've experienced it so many times myself. So for me, it's not even just the denial. It's the intention of denying it. I work a lot with intention. My distance Reiki sessions have a lot of intention involved in them. All of my healing is done with my intention. All the things, even the food that I make, and all the stuff I make for myself or for my friends or my family, I make it with intention. When someone's sick and someone makes chicken soup, a typical little old school story like that. It's not just the soup, it's the intention in it, this is gonna make you better, your sweet aunt came over and made this for you, and it's gonna make you better. All right, so along with the denials, it's the affirmations. Affirmations are I know they're like kind of a hard sell for some people, but they're a concentrated thought. It's a way of almost like the detox I talked about recently in a video recently. It's almost like a mental detox. It's flooding your system with good. So the affirmations are so very powerful and in multiple levels. Like not only are you reciting and hearing the statement, which is trickling down, but you're visualizing, you're adding some other components to it, which make it, they're just very, they're very, very powerful. The thing is, you have to stick with them. So along with our denials and affirmations, it's meditation, concentration, and visualization, which carries the rest of it. So the first steps are denying and then reaffirming or replacing, switching out the negative with the positive, and then moving to doing the work for yourself, taking the time to meditate on all of this, on that good, healthy place, on your success, on everything that you're working towards. I don't care if it's like money, health, being able to help more people, no matter what it is you're trying to get out of this or what you want to bring into your life, you know, like whether it be spiritual or on like a physical level. Visualize that, see it happening, you know, it draws it to you, or it draws you to it so much faster and so much easier and comfortably. It's really incredible. There's a very powerful statement that occultists use a lot, which is hold the thought. The longer you hold the thought, the more it starts to become real, the more power it gives to it, and the easier it is for you to get to that place for it to be true. Not that you're lying to yourself at all, even thinking it in the first place, you're making it real. You could use this in examples where, let's say you've been in like a past relationship or whatever. We've all had breakups, you know, so you know, when you get to that point in a relationship where like you're just like can't stop thinking about the negative about someone, and you know, it's just like da da da. The moment you freaking stop doing that shit, like if they're good to you and like they're like, and it's just you being like really nitpicky and maybe probably critical of yourself, but like you're projecting it onto them. The moment you stop doing that and you think about them in a positive way, like, oh, they work so hard, or oh, they're always doing all this stuff for me, or I could call them at any hour of the day and I know they'd be there for me. Like, instead of, oh, they're always late, oh, they're always messy, their hair's always messy, oh, and just like picking them apart. Like, change that, put it into something good, and that's what you're gonna see in that person. That's the power of your thought. That's the power of things becoming real, you know, thoughts becoming things. So just another example of like all of this. So the big denial in this chapter, like I touched on earlier, is there is no evil. There is only infinite good. Now, it's hard to get in line with that. It's hard to jump on like with that, I know, because your conscious mind, my conscious mind, wants to argue it. Like, what do you mean there's no evil? Like, did you see this? Did you see what's going on over here? What about this corporation? What about what's going on here? Again, we're not denying this in this physical world. We're denying it in our mental space to translate into our physical world. I really can't stress that enough because it's so easy to write this stuff off, and you're doing yourself a disservice when you do that, you know, and it's like, oh, like you don't know what you're talking about, there's all this evil. Like, of course, like it's not this plane. We're not talking about the physical plane. We're talking about our mental space. We are the nexus of our individual universes, and our mental space is where we're working to create all of this. What we create here will come forth in our lives. And when we think all this negative stuff is going to happen to us. Okay, so I have to clear that up, or like say it again, because it's just one of those things. But there is no evil. There is only infinite good. get comfortable with it. You know, try to make yourself as comfortable with that statement as you can, because it's hugely beneficial. And it's I know it's weird, but it's a good one. And by evil in your mental space is everything that's ever kept you from being successful, kept you from being healthy, kept you from being who you want to be, you know, like that great us that we're trying to get to, or this improvement, or this step up that we're trying to get here. So again, when you're doing any of these denials, this one is one you can say over and over again. Make this an affirmation. This is a great one. It's very powerful, because the more you start to resonate with it, and the more you're cool with it, and you're okay, and you accept it, it's just very powerful. You know, that's all I can say about it, I guess, for now. All right, so in addition to the meditations and visualization practices that we've been doing for, you know, since we started this, I'm going to read to you from the book, because the author's actually quoting people, so it makes sense to do this way. He says, for meditation this week, think upon these words. And he has a few like quotes from people, from like Buddha and James Allen. So I'm going to darken the screen, and I'd like you to please close your eyes and let these words circulate. Again, I'm darkening the screen because I don't want to distract you. Like, I don't want to be part of the distraction. I want you to like let this sink in, and you know, like in a music, when you see a music video for a song, I guess music videos aren't really the same as they were when I was growing up, but you'd have like an image of like the song in your head, you know, or like it would remind you of something, or where you were and you heard it, or who introduced it to you. But once you saw that video, that's kind of all you thought about. So that's why, another reason I'm like darkening the screen. So please listen to these words and let them float around for you and meditate on them. So this is from James Allen. The soul that is impure, sordid, and selfish is gravitating with unerring precision towards misfortune and catastrophe. The soul that is pure, unselfish, and noble is gravitating in equal precision towards happiness and prosperity. Every soul attracts its own, and nothing can come to it that does not belong to it. To realize this is to recognize the universality of divine law. And also we're going to meditate on these words from Buddha. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. And we're going to get back to James Allen now. Your own thoughts, desires, and aspirations comprise your world. And to you, all that there is in the universe of beauty and joy and bliss, or of ugliness and sorrow and pain, is contained within yourself. By your own thoughts, you make or mar your life, your world, your universe. I hope that you enjoyed this chapter as much as I do. I'm just really loving this book. There are definitely other books that go along the same process of controlling your thoughts, but this is the one that resonates with me, so I hope that you're liking it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your support and just everything. I'm very lucky to do what I love and connect with so many wonderful people. As always, namaste. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and remember to subscribe if you're interested in following me along and being notified when I post new videos. You can find me on Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook, or get in touch with me through my website, which is INNATE.com. There you can see the services that I offer, send a message, check out my blog, or make a donation if you feel so inclined. Thank you, and namaste.